Welcome to Pursuing Joy, where we share audacious stories of joy-infused strength. I am Julie Lunsford, and I am in the middle of a Working Genius series, and I am going to allow Christalee to introduce herself, where she's located, and how she is currently using Working Genius in her life. Welcome, Christalee.
Thank you, Julie. It's a pleasure to be here. So, my name is Christalee Crary, and I've been a Working Genius facilitator for 3 years now. I currently work as the Campus Experience Manager here at Southern Adventist University and have recently started as a consultant with WorkSpeed. Working Genius has been incredibly helpful. Working here at Southern, not just with my own department and team, but I have had the pleasure of being able to facilitate workshops with other departments here on campus. My favorite workshops, though, that I facilitate are actually with the college students here on campus, with many different teams.
Okay. So we were kind of chit-chatting before this, and I was geeking out over the student assessment that Working Genius put out when we were saying maybe not even a year ago. And I had my 15-year-old actually take it last night, and her geniuses were invention and discernment, and she's my oldest. I would love to have a study on birth order and Working Geniuses one day, but it really spoke to me because this is my interpretation of Working Genius, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree with this. But I believe overall the geniuses are more along like your purpose and your calling, and then the competencies, which I've seen for me, is more along the lines of like what life has kind of thrown at you, so you've become good at those competencies, and then the frustrations are a lot of times what people are saying maybe you should be doing or kind of something that you have felt pushed towards, but not necessarily what you find joy and energy in. And so when I saw her competencies as wonder and enablement, I was like, I felt I could immediately see the invention and discernment that just comes naturally to her. But my genius is wonder. And then as the oldest child, I rely very heavily on her. So I could see how enablement was developed with her. And then the tenacity and the galvanizing frustrations were no surprise to me either. So I have been in discussions with other parents that have their children going into the college setting. And what I am noticing in myself and what I'm noticing in others is we are, as parents, wanting our children to go into the field that is going to make them possibly the most financially successful, right? And we can't even really predict what's going to happen because who knew that AI was going to take over and all these layoffs for certain jobs were going to take place. But that's in our minds, we want that success for our kids, and we're trying to predict that and push them into certain majors. So can you tell me how you've seen this, how you were using Working Genius with students before the student assessment came out, and now that we have the student assessment, just tell me your experience with that.
So to touch on the point of parents real quick, because of my role, I facilitate visits and stuff for prospective students and their parents, both large events and individually. And I encounter so many parents that believe the best thing for their kid is to push them into majoring in things exactly for financial stability. But the thing is we don't know with how the world goes. And just because there's financial stability there doesn't mean it's the best for your kid. If it doesn't make them happy, they're going to be so frustrated and depleted throughout their time in college because they're studying for something that they don't have passion for. It doesn't give them energy. So by the time they do finish with their degree, if they even stick with the degree and they don't get burnt out and quit, is they're too tired to really give it all they have in their career. And you're just lining them up to eventually go through some midlife crisis later on, right? the best thing that a parent can do for their child is to help their child learn themselves. And using the Working Genius, especially the student assessment, is a great way that a parent can pour into their child and help their child discover who they are, what their passion is, what feeds them, what gives them energy. Because if they are majoring in something that feeds that, then they are going to thrive in school. They're going to love what they do. And when they get out into that field, no matter what change happens, then the student is still going to be successful because they love it so much. They're going to figure out a way to still do it because from the very beginning, they've been poured into and invested in and said, this is what you have purpose for. This is what feeds you. And when we find something that we love, we do everything we can to hold on to it, right? So that's my thing is parents, like, take time to share this with your child, figure out what feeds them and what they love. They will be successful. They may not make millions, but they're going to be successful because they're going to love what they do and they're going to be thriving. And quality of life is way more important than quality of things.
Right, right, right.
And so, how I have used Working Genius is prior to the student assessment, when I was facilitating workshops with students here at the university, I would use the regular assessment. I have a team of student workers, and they have many responsibilities from giving tours to large groups to one-on-one with families. They handle communications and navigate appointments. They provide training, so on and so forth, right? And so I wanted to make sure that I was giving the right assignments to the right student directors so that I was feeding them, so that they were loving coming to work and they were loving what they did. And it was also kind of indicating to them, this is what I will love when I go into my careers. This is where my energy comes from. This is what feeds me, right? And so I wanted to be able to pour into them from the beginning. Then when the student assessment came out, then I was just like, oh, this is even better. So I started facilitating my workshops with students using the student assessment. It has proven very beneficial, not just with work and responsibilities with my team, but as I facilitated workshops with other students here at the university for other departments. What we have discovered is it provides reassurance because I feel like every student, or at least 80% of them, have that junior year midlife crisis.
Right.
I'm so close to the end, but am I really meant to major in this? Am I really meant to do this? Like, I'm not sure anymore. Some people are suggesting this for me. Some people are suggesting that for me. And I had a student, a worker, and he just graduated this past May, and he got hired on with this corporation up in Chicago, and it's an awesome opportunity for him. But he wouldn't have made it. He came very close to changing his major, so close to the end, because so many people said, you're too extroverted to be an accountant, because accounting was his major, and it is what he enjoys. And so because he was listening to other people instead of listening to himself, he started to question. And I said, Chidi, let's pull up your Working Genius assessment. And he had also taken a Clifton Strengths. And he's like, well, I took my Clifton Strengths and I know that my Working Genius says this, but my Clifton, and I said, no, let's put them together because the two of them can work hand in hand in a really beautiful way, actually. And he was just like, okay. And so he comes into my office and we put both of them together and we just start talking. And he shares with me all the reasons why he thinks he shouldn't be an accountant. He loves working with people. He loves doing extroverted things and leading out and so on and so forth. And he brings a lot of energy when he's with crowds and large groups. And I said, and your view of accountants is, and then I was like, let's talk about the various fields where accounting comes in. And by the end of this meeting, he goes, boss, I know what I want to do. And I was like, what is that, Chidi? What do you want to do? And he goes, I want to major in accounting. He said, I want to do accounting. I want to go into the HR field with it. And eventually I want to be a professor. He's like, what I love is that after we have accounting classes, my classmates reach out to me to do study sessions. And when we're doing study sessions, they always say to me, Chidi, it is so much easier to understand when you lead out in study sessions than it is in the class. And that's what I love. I love to share and teach it. And I said, then that's what you're meant to do, Chidi. There's your passion. And it totally fits his geniuses. It totally fits his geniuses. And he's going to thrive and he's going to do great things, both when he's doing it in HR and eventually when he comes back to universities to be a professor in it. But that's just one of the many ways where I've seen it really help. It helps so much with understanding why your teammate prefers this instead of this. I can't tell you how many students I've heard say, so that's why you always leave those for me.
Right.
And then I've heard people be like, this is why I'm always asking, can I have that? Can I do that thing? Can that be my thing? And I'm like, yes, that's why.
Right. And it gives the language for that. And so I was curious, but I didn't want to lean over my daughter the whole time that she was taking the assessment, but I was curious about the questions. So I had her take a few screenshots. And so this is just an example of some of the questions on the student assessment. I can't help but think about the future and the bigger picture. And then you say how often that happens. I naturally and easily encourage my friends and take interest in whatever they are into. And then we'll just I really enjoy carrying out a project or task and won't stop until it's finished. And so Working Genius, again, is where you find your joy in the work process, where you line up in the phase of work. And I know how it was a big aha moment for me. And then seeing that aha moment happen in others during facilitation, right? And I can't even imagine having that kind of language during the college years. Yeah, it would have been so freeing for me. And I know someone that came from an accounting world, and he knows the numbers, he knows the things, and he's familiar with Working Genius, but he realized that he needed to open an accounting business. He didn't necessarily need to be doing accounting himself because it didn't bring him the joy and energy. So I'm curious, what was your major?
So my major actually was, I double majored in psychology and fine arts.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yeah. And so I love art. It honestly helped me. Like, my art classes were actually my therapy classes after doing some of my psychology classes. And I am almost done with my master's in industrial organizational psychology. I have always loved to work with people and understand people and help individuals. One of my geniuses is enablement, shocker.
Right.
And the other one is discernment. But at first, I started out as art therapy, and then eventually I just worked merely in the psych field. And I worked for youth and adolescent facility, and then a rehab facility for a couple of years. And I felt myself getting burnt out and getting tired, partly because I had lost a few patients to their addictions once they left the facility. And that weighed on me, right? Because you always second guess, like, what if this, what if that? And you just got to accept that people are going to make their own choices, right? But I wanted to just step back and take a break. And then when I did decide to get back into working, I was a manager for a home health care agency, and I loved working with my staff. But in that world, you don't just work with patients, you work with their families. And it was not conducive for me, who was starting a young family. So when the opportunity arose for me to come working at a university, I really found my stride. I love the fact that my job gives me the opportunity to work with students, but it gives me the opportunity to help mentor. And that's really what I love. And that's why I love consulting and I love doing Working Genius workshops, is because for me, it is, we are helping people learn about themselves, and we are helping them individually prosper and find happiness, to find joy, right? In addition to helping the team and by extension, helping the organization.
Right.
So all of my student workers, and there's definitely been many because I've been here for almost 10 years, 10 years come August, they all still keep in touch with me. And I will, also reach out and just check in and see how they're doing, because it's important to share with people that you care, you want them to thrive. Using Working Genius is one of the many ways that I've been able to pour into students and say, I really care about you and I really want you to thrive. I want you to go out into the world being more in tune with who you are, what you bring to the table, and how you will be successful. Then a lot of people, they get into their 40s, their 50s. Some people retire and never learn that about themselves.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yes. And that means there's nothing wrong with pivoting when you find it out. It took me a minute to believe that, but I'm very thankful for Working Genius just giving me, the permission to consider joy. And when I say give me permission, I mean, it's not just this abstract thing where I'm skipping through life and I'm finding all the joy and my head's in the clouds. It literally goes into productivity. There is a concrete reason why that you should go that route. And that is why I love to use it in the hiring process as well, because it just results in the betterment of the employee and then the organization as a whole. And I have found throughout speaking with Working Genius facilitators these last couple of weeks that many people in education have enablement as their genius. So I found that very interesting. What are your frustrations?
My frustrations are funny. They are actually galvanizing and invention. I know. And yet I love doing workshops. And so everybody's always just like, wait, but like I see you rallying the teams to kick off this event, and I see you rallying them for the beginning of the year, like here's casting the vision for this is what we're looking at, team, for the beginning of the year and all this stuff. And I'm like, yes, like as Patrick Lencioni says, like you can be good at all of them. It's about whether or not it gives you energy. For me, when I facilitate workshops, I'm not galvanizing, I'm enabling. I'm pouring into each individual person in that room. I'm helping them learn about themselves, and I'm helping the team learn them. And so for me, I'm helping each individual person. Okay. That's how I look at the workshops. I don't see it as galvanizing. When I am galvanizing my teams and stuff like that for these events, I can do it. And I'm so glad that they feel I'm successful at it. I will also say that I give my husband a heads up that I'm galvanizing. I'm like, don't forget I'm galvanizing today. And he's like, got it. Because what we've learned is, this is our code. That means when I get home, I need you to meet me on the couch with some dark chocolate. And I need for you to put on some movie, like mindless, that I can just check out and just let me just be. Because I have no energy left. I have just galvanized.
You're spent.
And he was great because he meets me with my dark chocolate and he finds some stupid mindless movie and we just sit and we laugh, and I just completely like zone out, and my kids will come and like cuddle and climb on me, and so giving me that nice fix of dopamine, and
Right.
I'm rejuvenated so I can carry on the next day. But if I had to galvanize every single day, and then eventually I can tell when someone has great invention, and I love to pull them in. I will wonder. That's I think my top competency is I will wonder, and I'll shoot something out there. And so if someone can take it and build upon it with invention, I'm like, yes, because otherwise I'm very much like, I'm just casting things.
Right.
So if you ask me to build on any of that, I'm like, I can discern after
Right.
you.
Right.
After you build upon it,
Yes.
So those are my frustrations, galvanizing and invention.
So that is a perfect example of how you actually don't, because something is your frustration, you don't get to get out of it, right? And I've noticed too, there's been people that have gotten nominated for awards in a line of work that is their frustration, but it is the thing that you need to realize. You do need that time set aside. You do need to approach it in a different way. And if you are doing it constantly, you are probably going to burn out. You don't want to have to come home to mindless movies and dark chocolate every single night to get through like your job, right? Like you don't want to have to counteract like that all the time, but when you have to. And that is just the way that it is used as a tool to facilitate what you're doing and where you are putting your energy and what is bringing you up and what is bringing you down. In my hiring or interview process, I tend to ask people, what are the tasks that you did today or yesterday that made you feel like you needed to take a nap when you got home? And what were the ones that made you feel alive and ready for the next phase when you enter into the day with your family? So it totally makes sense what you're saying. That's a great illustration. Can you tell me, I know we talked a little bit about your master's program and what phase of life you decided to do that in. And I'm always wanting to bring something else on. And you said to me many times, or what I have been told many times when I want to consider furthering my education is, you have enough right now. And that is accurate. But tell me how that kind of came about and how you decided on the timing for that.
So early on, when I had finished my undergrad degrees, I was planning on taking a year off and then just heading right back for my master's. Well, during that year off, I met my husband, and so things started to develop. So I procrastinated another year, and then marriage, and then kids. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, I don't want to do school too, right? I want to be very present, right? Because I'm also working, never stop that. So I then decided I will go back to school when I can be doing my homework at the dining room table with my kids, right? And then Working Genius came along because my children are old enough now where we literally are all doing our homework at the table together in the evenings. And when Working Genius came along, it gave me the opportunity to really look at, what do I want to do? Because as I was going through my careers, I was like, because I was working in the psych field and I was working in the counseling, but I realized, okay, this is not exactly what I want to do. So I don't want to just go back to school just to get a degree. Like I want to make sure that that energy is being poured into something that feeds me. And Working Genius actually gave me the opportunity to discover that I need to go into industrial organizational psychology. Like this is what I love, and I'm geeking out about it. And from the moment I started my master's, every single class, and my assistant, he's so good and patient with me because I'm like, guess what I just learned in this next class? And da, 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 da. And he's just like, that's awesome. That's great. I can't tell you if he really means it or he's just being nice, but I just have to share, like, because I'm loving it and I'm enjoying it. And I truly don't believe that I would have found that was the major for me. This is what I want to do if it hadn't been for Working Genius and facilitating these workshops and loving them so much that I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to do consulting. I want to have a master's in industrial organizational psychology. I want to keep doing this. And he'll even say, because sometimes I'll facilitate a workshop and then I'll come into the office and he's just like, I always know the days that you facilitate workshops because you're glowing, you're beaming, and you're like so on cloud nine when you come in. I know you did a workshop that day. And so to me, it's like getting my master's in this and consulting with WorkSpeed, which is the consulting company that I'm onboarding with. Like, I know I am pursuing my passion and my purpose. And with the opportunities to work with these students, like, I plan on still doing this, whether or not I'm here. I want to continue to always keep a touch point with students. I've actually had all of the students that I've done workshops with, I tell them, put your Working Genius on your resume.
Right. Okay. I remember you saying
because
that. Yeah.
like if the business or organization doesn't know what it is, they're going to ask about it. And then that gives you an opportunity to share a knowledge bomb. I love knowledge bombs. To share a knowledge bomb with them. And that's already going to impress them because you're able to share something about yourself that none of the other candidates are bringing, right? So it already makes you stand out. And if they do know what it is, then that still sets you apart because then they're just like, wow, this is really helpful that they know what this is. We know that they're going to be a great fit for this role because it lines up with their geniuses, right? So either way, it's a win.
Right. No, that's so true. That is so true. Because in my interview process, the more that someone can expound on things like that, of their knowledge of themselves versus what they can do, right? It is. I mean, that is a great recommendation. I did want to ask you, did your family, has your family taken the Working Genius, your family members? Okay. So,
well, not my youngest daughter yet.
Okay.
She's 13. I in my experience with my children and then some of my other friends' children's and stuff, I like to recommend wait till they are at least in their sophomore year of high school. There's so much transitions that are happening and during, the adolescent time. And in addition to that, the influence of friends. And so your kids are struggling through, is this me or is this just the influence of my friends on how I feel like I should be? Right. Is this the influence of my parents on how I feel like I should be? Or is this really me? Right. And so if your child is very mature for their age, right, then 10th grade. If not so much mature for their age, then honestly wait till senior year.
Okay.
Really. Because one thing a lot of people don't know is your kid doesn't actually have to declare a major their freshman year of college. They're going to be getting all prereqs out of the way.
Right.
They don't really need to even declare a major their sophomore year. It's their junior year where they need to be committed. So if your child's not like dead set, like, I want to do this, let them spend their freshman year getting all of these core beginner classes out of the way, because those core beginner classes are going to give them a taste of everything. Right. And it will help them know, all right, I really enjoyed this class. I need to look more in this field. I really hated that class. I'm really glad that I didn't declare a major in this field, right? Mm-hmm. So waiting till their senior year of high school to have them take Working Genius is not too late by any means. Right. And then anytime, and if they're already in college, my oldest has taken it. I was not surprised. She very much is invention and tenacity. Yes, my husband, when he took it, it made a lot of sense. Tenacity is like a frustration for him, and it's a frustration for me that it's a frustration for him because it's my lowest competency. And
Okay.
I was like, oh, I really want you to do it because I don't want to do it. I'll
Yes.
make the list, but I don't want to do it, you know? And so we both have to like lean into each other. But it definitely created that dialogue. Galvanizing is like his second to lowest. You do not put my husband out to rally anybody behind anything, right? But he is enablement and he is invention. And
Interesting.
so he
Okay.
loves to help people and he loves of thinking creative ways to help people. And that is one thing that I love about him because he's a disabled vet. And so, due to that reason, he is not able to have a job, like a consistent job. So, um, because of his disabilities and such, but he is able to help people when they are in need. Um, painted our whole church, repainted a building that our church bought, repainted the whole thing for the church, voluntary. Elderly family needed a ramp, built it for them. An employee of mine, her husband passed away, and she's needing help transitioning the home and getting a lot of things moved out and taken to donation or whatever. He's there. He's loading up his truck constantly and unloading. He's helping fix this and that. Like he loves to help, and he can think of very creative ways to get around any barriers or limitations in order to be able to provide that help.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That
that's how he uses his geniuses. Yeah.
and that's I mean that's is an interesting way to this is the scope of what I can do. Let me find my geniuses to use that to the best of my ability.
Right.
Like put that energy where it needs to go in the way that you're able to do that. So I love that so much. Can you in closing, what
Mhm.
are you doing currently to pursue joy? What is bringing joy in your life outside of workshops? I know that's
Oh yeah,
a sweet
because
spot
that's
for
what we
you.
do. So because my leading genius is enablement, and my assistant, one of his geniuses is galvanizing, and we've already addressed. That makes me tired.
Right.
We, I have already started this past year. More and more of the galvanizing parts of my job, I am giving to him, and because it pours into him, and so why not, right? Um, on top of that, it's with each one of my team members and various individuals in my life, not just those that I work with, but also friends and family. I am sharing this with each one of them, and I'm also sharing with them this isn't just about like professional world. Like this goes hand in hand into your home relationships. So I actually didn't even mean to, but I ended up pre-marriage counseling session with some friends of ours at our house because I had shared Working Genius with
Okay.
the soon-to-be husband, and he loved it so much, and so he asked me to share with his fiance, shared with her. And then it started being a casual conversation. And then the next thing I know, we're literally having a talk, and I hear him say, so this is why when we were looking at dining room sets at IKEA, you just really about those chairs, da 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 da. And she's like, and this is why you weren't understanding, like you weren't getting why, blah, blah, blah. And the next thing I know, it's this whole like, now I get it. Oh, that's why you, and then, okay. And then they're both looking at me. So how do we work with that? And I'm just like, well, here's what my husband and I have figured out.
Right.
And here's how we're having to, and it ended up being like this marriage counseling. It was the most amusing. And my husband's just sitting there, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, That's right.
No,
Yep.
it totally makes sense because you
Yep.
need those compliments. You need that even if it feels frustrating in the moment, like you actually need someone to compliment your geniuses, and you need to stop operating in guilt and judgment. And you have the language for it.
Right.
So I love that. You have given so many different directions and different ways to use the working genius. I love that. I'm so glad that we were able to have this conversation and look at working genius this in several different ways that haven't been highlighted so far. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Julie. This was fun.
All right. Awesome. Well, and I hope we talk again soon. Thank you.
Same. Well.